I can't. This fucking beer is all greasy. Hold on. Can you even open this thing? It's a good start. All right. Here's some Matt. Go ahead and include that if you dare. Whatever. Cold. The coldest of cold opening. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Oh.
That's a good crack. For
Yeah.
that being a greasy can and you getting mad at it before you
Stayed the part where I couldn't actually open it for 30 seconds prior to this pod. No puns allowed. Paige and Adam. And
act
we
together
are
again. We are really back.
Like, for
Texas
real.
this year.
Like-
Texas this year. Not Texas in the last couple of years. Texas this year back.
Yeah, we kind of faked being back, like Texas 2000, like ever. It was like, we had some Mario Cristobal back, but this is for real now. We are back. You're back, actually. And how does it feel to be back?
It feels strange, honestly. 3 weeks of being overseas and also like the weirdest 3 weeks of all time being not in the United States, like for like not only like just random reasons, sports reasons, like all kinds of like news breaking and being in a different time zone just is like, and not even like, oh, you're a couple hours behind like East Coast, West Coast, like you're like 8 hours ahead and you have no idea what's going on. It's wild. But I had a great time. Lots of bottles of wine were drank. I tried taking a picture of each of the ones and I lost track by the time we got to Paris. So literally Paris was our second stop on our trip. And by the time I got to Paris, I forgot to take pictures of the number of bottles of wine. But I'm guessing, I think you set the number at 15. And
Yes.
we well over. Just because like
Over cashes.
yeah, I learned a new phrase actually. So this is so like person who gets back from Europe and tells a story like this. We went
Jesus.
wine tasting in Porto, but it's this place called the Douro. And basically the guy was like talking to us and he knew we were American and he was like, yeah, this is what the Americans call a porch pounder. I have, first of all, never heard that phrase in my life, meaning like it just goes down easy.
Neither have I.
It's the best phrase that I have ever heard. This guy was Dutch and he was telling us that this is what Americans called it. They came to this winery a different time. And now like porch pounder is going to be a thing.
Perfect.
Like that is a thing. If something is a porch pounder, that's going to be a thing. It blew my mind that an American would go to Portugal and be like, this is a porch pounder. I was like, oh my God, they had to have gone to an SEC school, right? Like they had to. There's no way that like someone from like Duke or like Washington said that. Like that is full on SEC porch pounder. So that's our new phrase is porch pounder. So I'm bringing that to the podcast. You may use it as you please. Please tag me anytime you use it on social media.
I do like that. It fits. Like that is perfect. I want to jump in. I have very little interesting things that have happened to me over the last 3 weeks, other than a football video game came out.
Yes.
However, I got an email yesterday. You will love this. I did not tell you this, so your reaction will be genuine.
Okay.
It is. You get these two, like the PR emails that are like,
Yeah.
hey, like I'm looking at my email right now. Like I just got one. Oh, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say because it says it's embargoed, but whatever. It's like some uniform or something and it's terrible.
Yeah.
So most of these emails are absolute shit, except for this one. So I got an email from a PR company, right? And I'm like, okay, let's see. And it was the Tyson chicken nuggets. Did you see this on Twitter yesterday or X?
No.
So Tyson, which when I was telling my wife, I called Dyson and she said, you're getting a vacuum? And I said, no, nuggets.
Or a hairdryer.
And I called it, or a hairdryer. So Tyson has partnered with Arkansas, the chicken nugget company.
Yeah.
And they're making Hog Arkansas Razorback chicken nuggets. So she goes, here's some news. Would you like some? And I've never in my life responded to an email saying, I would absolutely love some. Here's my address. Thank you so much.
Wait, I'm so jealous. That is so sick.
I can hook. Yes. And they are.
Didn't the Tyson person go to Arkansas? Am I making that up?
That is news to me.
Because I know, Papa John was like a Louisville guy. Like, I think the Tyson family is affiliated with Arkansas in some way.
The bag, I mean, they are. Like,
I'm looking that up now.
First up, chicken nuggets are awesome. And the bag actually says Woo Pig Suey on it.
Oh my gosh. That is
So
sick.
like people, there's very few things that get me excited, but a free bag of chicken nuggets, hog nuggets, whatever. I
Hog
like.
Well, I
I'm
hope
in.
they're not made of hog.
It's a hog nugget.
That changes things.
Well, no, I mean, actually, it sounds delightful. But yes, so there you go. That's what
Okay.
I've been doing for 3 weeks.
So the John H. Tyson was born in Springdale, Arkansas, and
There
he
you
went
go.
to SMU. So that like checks out in a lot of ways. Okay. But that is sick. That is so cool.
So there you go.
So you're
Some of
getting
us
the
go
hog
to Europe,
nuggets?
others
Yeah.
others just get hog nuggets. Yeah. So don't worry. For everyone
Also,
out there,
just
I
like
will
so
have
on brand for me being like, I was in this like bougie wine area, and you're like, by the way, they have
hog
hog
nuggets.
nuggets. The most like on brand.
That's our
thing for
pod.
us
That's our
in the world.
If you wanted like 5 minutes, that's our pod.
That just sums it up. Sums us up as people. If you've never listened to this podcast ever before, that gives you an idea of just our personalities in one shot. I do want to talk about you doing solo podcasts.
Yeah.
And also just point out that I mentioned that I was like 8 hours ahead. So I would like text you and be like, hey, is everything good with the podcast? Whatever. I would go like days, and then you're like, yeah, by the way, it was good. It's a stressful week, but like everything's fine. So I like checked to see if you like posted it anywhere. It's literally just your Twitter. And I was like, this is also the most on brand. None of our poor producer Matt. Yeah. Shout out producer Matt for clipping stuff for Instagram. And Kramer, I don't even think knows the password to our Instagram, which is also okay because like that's fine. But it's just the funniest thing ever. And also the best text that I ever got. You were texting me about something, and you were like, it's just different, like in doing solo podcasts and stuff like without you or whatever. And I was like, if you miss me, you can just say you miss me. That's okay. It was really funny. And I was like cracking up to myself about that. And my boyfriend's like, kind of relax. Like, that's not that funny. And I was like, it's hilarious.
You would text. It's funny. I am normally up late. So we will communicate normally in times of like whatever. It will be late night. Most time, like that's how we operate, especially in the season. Okay, this is turned in whenever. So I would wake up and there was like a text like, did the pod go up or something? And I was like, it was like my mom texted me if I cleaned my room, like kind of, like maybe.
Like, well, it did.
Is
and
it
you're like,
up?
also
Yes.
running on very little sleep.
Yeah. Does anyone know about it?
And you're also like, it's like your mom texting you that you played video games instead of doing what you were supposed to do, which like kind of checks out.
Yeah, I could like feel the European angst. Like when I woke up, I'm like,
but also you've worked with me long enough to know that like my anxiety about like, okay, is everything perfect? Is everything organized? Is it all done? If not, I'll do it. I'll just do it. We'll get it done. We'll do like, it's just my personality, and trying to be off for 3 weeks was very, very hard. I did it for the most part. I checked my email once a week just so that I didn't have that many emails to go through when I got back. Still like 500 and something to go through when I got back, but that's not that bad. But it was better than the like thousands that I probably would have had to go through. But yeah, no, thank you for holding down the fort. We are officially back. We will talk about football things that are going on. But overall video game, let's tie a bow on video game content. I mean, obviously we'll continue to talk about it, but is there anything that you didn't get to talk about that you've noticed over the last like week or so that you'd want to like add to the commentary on the podcast or on the video game?
I'm seeing the glitchiness more and more, which is bound to happen. Like, and I think they've done a good job of being pretty open about like the games that they're doing, but like I've run into some of like the weird ass moments of like balls like bouncing into the outer space and guys climbing air and all that stuff. But I'm still enjoying myself. Like the biggest thing is I just do not have fucking time to play this game anymore.
Yeah.
I just finding reps. Road to Glory has become my thing because I can only pour so much. The other thing I'll say, I am actually enjoy, like it has become almost a nightly ritual where the boys and I play, like the three of us play. And what I like about it is like they pick different teams every single time. And so we're playing with everybody. Like
anyone
we're trying
Arizona?
out.
No.
Not Arizona has not been played. You know what? We will do that tonight. We will moonlight because Arizona would be a super fun team to play with. But we've played with a ton of teams. Normally Jack wants to pick like who is best, and like
Yeah.
Cameron just wants to have a good time, and it's like we have to balance out the teams a little bit.
Those games are like gateway to teaching them about the sport and then remembering a lot of the stuff. Like they obviously sit and watch with you, and we've talked about it on the show.
Yes.
Like on Saturday nights they're watching, but there's a difference when you're engaged in it. You know the players' names and they're involved in it. You know like what conference they're in, you know who they play on a regular basis. You start to learn those things about college football and like what it's about. And I think that's really cool because I think for a lot of like Americans, FIFA is how they got into like soccer and like world football. And I find it interesting now that like there's probably a younger generation that will play this video game that will kind of bring them into college football if they didn't grow up in an environment that kind of has made them. But I will say one of the funniest memes coming out of this is like the dads now talking about like, if you have no kids and no, like you're in college or you're on summer break or whatever, and all you have to worry about is you're like 9 to 5 and playing this video game, like consider yourself the luckiest man in the world. Like for those dads who are like doing bedtime and don't have the time to put into the video game. Those were my favorite memes coming out of the weekend.
There is something brewing in the background that if it comes to fruition will be pretty fucking awesome with the game. And I'm just going to say, I was told about it today.
You can't like drop that in. Can you tell me when we're not on? Can you tell me when we're
yes,
not recording? Okay.
I can tell you when we're not on air.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, like that's how new it is.
Share.
But I was told something today that would be especially near and dear to me. That there's no way this is actually going to happen, but I really hope that it does. So
I'm so excited to find out what it is.
Oh, it's cool. Like it's cool. You will see. And it probably won't happen, and then it'll be sad. But I'm going to just go under the assumption that it may happen. And if it does, it would be really, really awesome. So stay tuned. That's like a legitimate tease on that. I should have told you that before we got on air. But it's actually better this way.
I know. Now you're making me wait.
Now you're along for the ride. No, but it's fun. Like the other thing that I'll say, it's like, and now we're in the mix of writing stories and looking at point spreads. Like I'm in the flow, and like I'm in schedule hunting and even playing this game. Like you're looking at teams and conferences, and it's a broken record, but the changes that we're going to deal with this season still do not compute at all to me. Like, yeah, I am still not quite at like comfortable with all of the things that are about to happen. And I probably won't be until next fall. Like it's going to take that long, I think, for us to adjust to how different it is. And it really is going to be the games themselves, right? Like that's ultimately how we're going to be like, oh my God, we're actually doing this thing.
Yeah. So I do have one last Europe story that I just remembered that I need to tell everyone. That's a two-parter. First thing is that I saw Alabama gear everywhere. Everywhere. It was like it was following me. But I think that the college football gods had a little bit of a sense of humor with me while I was gone, because we went on this tour in Lucerne, Switzerland, and it was a chocolate, cheese, and wine tasting tour. Okay. And my boyfriend and I meet this other couple that's there, and they say that they're from Georgia. Okay. I don't assume that everybody from Georgia is a college football fan, but I had an idea that maybe they were. So we end up we go through this whole tour. We sit down at the wine tasting, we sit next to them, and I say, oh, like, where in Georgia are you from? And they're like, Athens. Have you heard of it? And I was like, oh, well, actually, I work in college football. These were the nicest, most respectful, kind, funny, smart.
Oh my God.
Georgia fans that I've ever come across. There's no barking. That's disappointing. I am changing my tune on Georgia fans after meeting this couple that lived in Athens and goes to every game, and just hearing them talk about like Georgia in a way that's like not Delulu was like very, very fun and refreshing for me, but also just like so funny, right? Because we all know that like the two teams that I like slight the most are Georgia and Clemson, and like I was so happy that was the experience that I got and the Georgia fans that I got.
Oh, okay. Question: were the words Stetson and or Bennett uttered during this conversation?
Not at all. No, we didn't even talk about him. We talked about, obviously, the stuff that's been off the field for the last couple of years that has been a little, like, not great, okay?
Jesus, it's like a depressing football conversation.
No, it wasn't.
No
It was just like,
barking
we
and
know they're
reckless
not
driving
perfect,
banter?
but, they love Kirby. They said his wife is very lovely. They have realistic expectations. They don't hate Nick Saban, because obviously Alabama and Nick Saban had to come up in the conversation, and that was positive.
They
They're
played
just
all
like,
the hits.
they're almost like, it's almost like they had like a how to impress Paige and not make Paige get overhyped. But we talked about, like, the football season. They love Dan Lanning. We bonded over that because obviously he was with Georgia. Like,
I don't know.
it was such a good, happy conversation that because sometimes, and I think most people can relate to this, like, if you're passionate about a sport in general or a specific team or whatever, when you talk to people who have, like, different, like, sports views, you get kind of passionate and animated. And I know this may surprise some people, I get pretty animated when talking about college football. And this was probably one of the most, like, pleasant, like, oh, this is what I do for a living. Oh, let's talk about the, like, college football conversations that I've ever had. So shout out to that couple from Georgia, because I actually love them. And we follow each other on Instagram. So hopefully if I go to a Georgia game, I can hang out with them.
If they're listening to this, first off, you sound like lovely people. Second off, no barking, no Stetson Bennett mentions. Are you truly a Georgia fan? And you love Nick Saban? Like, I'm sorry.
They didn't say they love Nick Saban. They just don't hate him, like, in the way that, like, some people do. And, like, they respect
kind of got him out of football.
Respect that he's the guy. Okay. Now you're trying to round me up. Now you're actually just, that was you on purpose. That was on purpose.
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, there was also Alabama gear everywhere I went. Everywhere I went, someone was wearing an Alabama hat.
I don't understand that.
Literally in London, there was someone with an umbrella. In Barcelona, there was someone with a bucket hat that was Alabama. And I was like, are they following me? Like, do I just, like, attract anything to do with college football? And the answer is yes, because literally someone on my tour that was like 6 people ended up being a couple that lives in Athens.
I also would like a reality show where just the 2 most obnoxious Georgia fans in the universe go to Europe and bark at people. Just for shits. Just like,
for them to be like, do the, like, the sick'em, the call, the dog call, or whatever it's called.
Yeah. Call the Hogs, whatever the fuck you want to do, whatever. We can say it could be a Georgia fan, it could be an Arkansas fan. Like, pretty much any obnoxious, like, it's probably an SEC. Like, you got to send someone with a little pizzazz. Yeah, like call the Hogs.
I think in London they would find it very normal, because of just the way that their, like, soccer fans are.
That's true.
But I think everywhere else, like, if you did that in Paris, I mean, I actually would pay money to see college football fans, like, interact with French people. Like, that would just be the funniest thing of all time. Someone make it happen.
It is interesting though. Like, that gives me hope for the sport. Like, you're the NFL trying to go international and doing more stuff. By the way, I totally forgot the NFL has a Friday night game to start the year. Like, how fucking weird is that? No, but, like, I think, okay, I got to make sure I'm not.
Is it a regular basis? I wouldn't.
I think they do the Thursday night game to start the year. I want to say that
there is
also
like
a
Friday loophole.
Night.
There's a loophole with whatever night.
So you have a Thursday night game. It's Ravens-Chiefs, Thursday the 5th. Friday the 6th, Packers-Eagles. Like, how weird is that?
Yeah, there used to be, like, a rule. Maybe they changed it. There used to be a rule where they couldn't have games for broadcasting purposes. I forget what the exact rule was, but there was a rule. Because I remember being like, why is it set up this way? And that's why, like, Saturdays were off limits. I'm sure it still applies Saturdays, but I'm sure Fridays they're like, sorry, we're too big. We're not following that
rule. I found that fascinating. In any event, useless information, but still fascinating, nonetheless.
Right.
But I am glad that you had a good time. Are you, at any point in your trip, did you before your trip or at any point in your trip, did you, like, really get the college football, like, I'm ready moment? Like, have you gotten it yet? I guess
So
the better question.
I would say probably after having that conversation, on the wine tasting, at that wine tasting with those Georgia fans, because I think too, like the optimism around like the expanded playoff and like just even thinking about like getting started and looking at games and looking at schedules. And like we did a live show with BR before I left and we recorded. And so like I had the itch, but then like after 2 weeks of being gone, I was like, no, I can tell that this year is going to be like something special. And like I also TNT Sports signed a deal with the Mountain West and have rights, and like those type of things make me really excited because like it's the landscape is changing so much. It's going to be so different than what we're used to, that I just feel like this year out of all the years is going to be like historic in so many ways just because of the stuff that's going on. And I mean, even I got the notification about the NCAA antitrust stuff in the ruling and like what's going to happen with paying players and what happens to collectives. And we alluded to that a couple of weeks ago before I left, like, oh, this is going to change college football completely. Even though it just changed, it's going to change again. And just even thinking about what the sport's going to look like over the next 10 years kind of makes me excited.
It's so funny. We were talking before we came on about the NCAA stuff, and I think most people, let me say, myself, like, I don't care. I should care more than I do.
Yeah.
I hear this stuff, and I know it's important. The NCAA, like, and I did a stream with this with Michael Felder of like, hey, schools can pay kids now directly. Forget about going through, any sort of
Collectives.
like, collective, which was some fucking front bullshit. We know that. But like they could pay directly. And like, I was like, oh, yeah. Of course. Like, of course they can. So it's like, and you look at the money that we're talking around, like, I think I would assume that a lot of people are numb to this because I'm having, like, I'm still distracted with like, OMG, expanded playoff, Oregon in the Big Ten, Arizona no longer, like, holy cow. So there's some, 5 years ago, all of these would have been huge stories, and they are huge stories. It doesn't hit the same like it used to.
Yeah, I think for me, like having dug into it now that I've gotten back and seen like the revenue sharing aspect of it, what this means for like Title IX and other sports that aren't football, and like understanding how the like game and recruiting and the money actually works. So like the separation of like, okay, college football teams have this in athletic departments have this many scholarships and this is the money that they have already allotted to that. That's separate from, okay, this is what is going to be divvied up in revenue sharing, but football players are probably going to get more than basketball players, swimmers, all of those things because their sport brings in more. But basically the school is given, I guess like 23.1 million is what like will be the number that they get to divvy up. And also the other part of this is now, before we were worried, NCAA's job was to monitor whether or not people were getting paid or receiving gifts or whatever before all the NIL stuff. Now, basically what it is like they want to do away with collectives and they're going to monitor whether or not NIL deals are legit or not. And like that is going to be just like, can you possibly?
Good luck.
They're just trying to get away from the pay for play thing, which collectives are essentially a loophole for. So those kind of things fascinate me. Also, the revenue sharing part of it fascinates me because like the players are actually getting a piece of the pie finally. And like that's the part that's so important, especially because of how much the sport is growing. We've seen, a new media rights deal for the CFB playoff. We've heard rumblings of, investors coming into the sport in so many different ways, in so many unique ways, that the money is just going to keep growing. And with the sport, I mean, I think it's annually the amount that the school gets goes up 4% based on like projections of what like the sport will bring in. I think it's going to be well above whatever is projected because of the fact that this is just like taken off completely. So that's the stuff that I find fascinating, especially because we've been talking about players getting a fair cut for so long.
A parallel to be the PGA Tour and the Saudis, the PIF or whatever, Live Tour, however you want to do it.
Yeah.
they, reached terms on a verbal agreement, and it was like, hey, we're going to figure out a deal. And I always have to be careful with this, right? Is work with Golden T, who's got a partnership with the PGA Tour, which I have to put out there as my quote unquote media side of me kicks in. But these are huge decisions that, and we've seen that decision with the Tour and the Saudis take significant time, because when you actually get into the details of this, it is really complicated.
Mm-hmm.
This is really complicated. College football has a budget reckoning on its doorstep, and you're hearing about private equity. You're going to hear more about private equity. That I've talked to people, and that is very, very real, because if you can have a private equity firm that can deposit $500 million or more into your budget, and you're like, hey, we actually can keep field hockey now, or we can do this, or we can all of these things are intertwined. And I think a lot of people are probably kind of annoyed by it, but the model is not sustainable. Like the model, I'm telling you, the model now, because of how they're spending, and they only have themselves to blame when you look at how much they spend on head coaches or a recruiting coordinator or whomever, right? Like this is it, but this is not sustainable at its current pace. Well, the television contracts are great, but you are outspending all of this new revenue that you're bringing in my opinion.
Well, and the thing is that they do have a timeline for this, and it's next summer. So next summer 2025 is when schools will be able to sign contracts with athletes directly.
That's like a snap of the finger.
That's the timetable. And remember when we were like, oh yeah, July of next year is when, or July of this year is when NIL is going to be legal. And the moment it hit, it's that's going to be where this all shifts and changes. And we've done so much adjusting to do this new way that now this is kind of going to flip it on its head. So I find it fascinating. It's definitely more of the nitty gritty stuff that's not as fun and exciting. So I do want to jump to something that is actually very entertaining. And
Hog Nuggets.
Hog Nuggets.
Sorry.
Dylan Raiola showed up at school to Nebraska. Okay, by the way, shout out neighbor Jason, who's in Disneyland.
Oh my God, yeah. Neighbor Jason. Did you see the picture of him riding the roller coaster by himself?
Yes, absolutely fantastic. He has to be so happy, but also this kid looks just like Patrick Mahomes. In the photo, if you would have just put that on Twitter, I would have thought that it was Patrick Mahomes. And he made a joke about it on Twitter, oh, it's my little cuz or whatever. But for Nebraska fans, let's hope he's like Patrick Mahomes.
So I am super excited about Nebraska again. You may or may not hear about them in a certain gambling article coming out. I know. I'm doing that shit again, Paige. The goofy meme, fuck it. I'm doing it again. But I will say this. Raiola does not skip leg days. I mean, kind of weird for me to commenting on a young athlete's appearance, but I could probably do it better success if it's male than female. I'm less likely to be in trouble. Cancel. So let's just lean into it. Yeah, but his leg, for a true freshman, that dude is put together. And the vibe I've heard from people that watch him at camps is he can throw the absolute shit at the football. Now, I will say,
what's their schedule look like? Because I know you've done research on schedules.
There is a chance, and I'm going to pull it up now because I was writing about this last night for a story that will come out next week. There is a chance. Let's do this game. Let's do my favorite game. We're not going to do. We're saving our real previews for
win
weeks
total.
From now.
Are you going to make me guess the win total?
I'm going to make you do win-loss. Let's just go right through. I'm going to give you the schedule, and all you have to do is tell me win or loss.
Okay.
Versus UTEP at home.
UTEP's actually pretty good, so I will say at home. Okay, I'll give it to Nebraska.
Yes.
So 1 win.
Colorado at home.
Win.
Northern Iowa at home.
Win.
Neighbor Jason's going to that game, has invited me. I'm no man. It's pending chaos.
You have to work.
Illinois I know. Well, this is Illinois at home.
Wow, I guess I can give him a win. Yeah.
Yeah. We're 4-0. Okay, at Purdue.
I'll say because it's at Purdue, I'll give him a loss. So only 4 wins.
All right, so we're
4-1
versus Rutgers. We're home versus Rutgers.
Okay, yeah, that's a win. So 5-1.
We're at Indiana, who was bad last year.
Yeah. That one's hard. Because Indiana's a weird place to play. Ask Ohio State.
Yeah, but that was like Indiana.
You know what? I'll give them the win. I'll give them the win. So 6.
We're 6-1. We're at Ohio State. We're just going to give that a loss.
Yeah, nope. L.
It's fine. 6-2. UCLA at home.
Loss.
At Nebraska. I'm sorry. It's in Lincoln.
And
we're still going loss.
In Lincoln, Nebraska. Yeah.
Yeah. It's in November. No. You know what? You do you. I'm swaying you. This is.
Yeah,
like,
I don't want because
like
if they're totals at a half, I'll take that one as a loss.
Okay. All right. Sorry. So we are 6-3. Fair. We're at USC. That's a loss.
Yeah. No, that's a loss.
That's 6-4. Home versus Wisconsin.
Whoa. That's hard.
I have some thoughts on Wisconsin. We can talk about that next week. It's another team I wrote about last night.
Okay, I will give them a loss for that. So still only at 6 wins.
And then at Iowa.
They
never beat Iowa. That's a loss. So we're 6-6.
So 6 wins. What's their win total? What's their total set at?
I'm pulling it up again. Hold on. See, I feel like you could have gone a little bit more favorable. Oh, they're favored by 28 the first game. I know that.
No, but Woods.
I want to say it's 7, but hold on. Let's see.
I told you if it's a...
Nope, 7.5. And the over is minus 125. So the odds makers are doing that thing again. So in theory, under 7.5 at plus 105 is pretty good.
It is.
Like,
I
Viola's
feel
going to
like
start,
that's fair.
by the way. Viola is definitely going to start. I'm excited to watch him because everybody I've talked to who's seen him play live says he can throw the absolute shit out of a football. So
very Patrick Mahomes-esque.
And now you have to play him, right? Otherwise, you know what? Like, could that go sideways on him? Probably. That was like last year, Cade McNamara for Iowa. It's like, yeah, everyone says our offense sucks. Go ahead. Tell us our offense is shitty. It's so shitty. Like, that was his pop-up quote, and buddy, it was shitty, right? So when you dress as Patrick Mahomes, you are inviting some feedback, but I kind of love it. I kind of absolutely love it, and
I do too. I like
he's
the confidence.
Shit out of the football.
I mean, it's only up from here for Nebraska. You know what I mean?
Well, it has to be. There is like,
that's what I mean. So like, there's literally no choice. Like, I hope maybe he can bring some swag back.
I also, it's funny that you and I. We didn't do an agenda for this pod because we're like, we know how this is going to go. And it's some of our favorite pods. But it is funny that you brought it up. TCU,
yep.
Had an appearance in the national championship, lost a ton of really good players, and then regressed last year, kind of as expected.
Okay.
But how about Sonny Dykes adding Dana Holgorsen
and Todd Graham
to their staff? Now, okay, at Alabama, this would sound very normal because this is what Nick Saban, like Steve Sarkisian, and all of these guys, like elite coaches, go to the Charlie Strong, like Lane Kiffin, like analysts, the whole analyst path. Yeah. It's like the rehab tour for coaches. Got to be careful. Rehabilitation coaching tour, right? And for TCU, though, it's not normal. I was shocked by this. I think it's awesome.
I think it's sick. I think this is going to be actually pretty useful, especially for those guys who've had, I think I'm not allowed to say nice things about Todd Graham just being an Arizona Wildcat, but I will say I do think that's a really good addition. And I think Holgorsen, like, when that's just like, here's the thing with him is like, he's head coach material and we know that and can be successful. Like, having him on your staff period is just makes you better. And then not to mention you're Sonny Dykes. Like, not to mention you're already superior.
Graham and Holgorsen are like popular Twitter like targets. For different reasons. Holgorsen with the Red Bull and just his general disposition, which I love. Graham,
Todd
of course,
Graham,
not the best reputation, but
Britney Spears,
both
Mike.
guys can really coach. Yes. Yeah. Oh God, that was a mistake. But both, I mean, just having them in a scouting department, like,
Yep.
huge. I think it's
Talking
awesome.
about football
we'll see.
guys, like if you could just be like, hey,
Oh my
if you had to pick 2 football guys that you could give a job that don't have jobs right now, that's probably the best 2 that you could pick. Since
Also
Bill
some buyout
Belichick has a job now with Underdog Sports or whatever it is, Underdog Fantasy. Did you see that?
What do you think? Yes, I did.
Okay.
What do you think Holgerson's been doing with like 12? I don't know. What was Holgerson's buyout? I gotta look this up. It was a lot. And
just like wearing
I
a
think it
visor
was-
by the beach and drinking beer
Oh,
in like Florida.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
it's
Or like
pure
Lake
times.
Travis.
It's funny. It's like the first article when you look it up. Dana Holgerson's impossible buyout. Like that's
Buddy,
what you'd
they're
describe.
all impossible these days.
Oh
But
my God. No way it was 25 million. I just saw that. That can't be. 15 million. $15 million to not coach.
because that makes it
Like,
better.
Now you're just going to go help out Sonny. A good man, right? Like, there's worse things to be doing with your life.
Yeah, that's not terrible. But yeah, I think that's a huge win for TCU. Like that could potentially bring them into another level, especially when you have, I mean, maybe not this year, but maybe in a year. Like you get, like you said, even just like scouting wise, that's amazing. But also in the sense of like knowing the landscape of college football, knowing though it's changed, there's a lot of it that stays the same.
I also wanted to ask you, you are our resident Alabama beat reporter for this
Amen.
podcast. You are in tune.
Wow, Casa Grande is going to be so pissed about that.
Well, you know what? Like, I'm sorry. Like, this is the way it is. He's got to like non-chili, right? Like, his chili opinions are terrible, and his food opinions are bad. And until then, you are our Alabama beat reporter. But like, since you've been gone, Bama vibes are pretty high.
They are
Like,
really high.
They're recruiting. There's, I think, more optimism. Like, everyone realized, like, the coach they hired was probably
is a good
literally
choice.
the best possible coach they can hire.
Yep.
I know we're going to preview all these teams and all these conferences in the next few weeks, but like, what are the Bama vibes heading into August?
The Bama vibes are good. I think most people nationally, they will underestimate how well Keelan can keep them in the playoff conversation. And I know it's expanded, but I think like if there was still 4 teams, they would still be in the conversation. And I think that to people will be surprising because I think everyone thought that no matter what, there was going to be a drop off. And I don't know that is actually going to be the case, sadly, for lots of people who wanted it to be the case for Alabama.
I kind of agree. They are. I think Jalen Milroe is going to like ascend to being like a top 10 pick. I wouldn't be surprised if
we need to do a hot takes episode.
Done. There you go. There's one.
Hot takes.
Yeah,
we are going to preview college football content and really get into this season and looking at everything and breaking everything down. Definitely slide in our DMs and tell us how you want us to break it down. Because I feel like normally you and I talked about this yesterday, like normally we break down conferences and stuff like that, but I feel like we can get a little bit more creative with how we break stuff down. And I think a hot takes one is a good one to have because also it's so fun to take those clips back. Like remember when you said Clemson was going to make the playoff? Like I want to bring those things to be able to roast. I mean, you did say Michigan was going to win a national championship, so.
And Texas was going to make the playoff.
Yeah, that was fair.
Clemson was bad.
Yeah, I mean, we all have good and bad takes. No one can be perfect at this.
I know we will see the football stuff for another episode, but I do have one. When you were gone, I did a live stream with BR Solo ranking my top 10 quarterbacks in college football. I actually don't have the list in front of me, and I can't remember what I did, but which is great and very much on brand. However, so you do a ranking like this, whether it's written or podcast or video and live video, like you and I have done these videos, and the comment section can be like a fucking dangerous place. Like bring machete, like get the eye black on, like go in.
Be prepared.
So So I did it, and like I had like Shador Sanders at 6, and I'm kind of remembering my list now. Like it's a hard list. This is a weird year of college football.
Yeah.
I did have Carson back at number 1, and
Okay.
then from there it's kind of like it gets tricky. I had Dylan Gabriel at 2, so now it's all coming back to me.
Yeah.
But it's hard. Like you go between 2 and 12, and you can make a lot of case. Like if Cam Rising's healthy, and you saw he's probably in.
Did you have Noah Fafita on there?
I did. I think he was 7 for me.
Okay.
I think I had him at.
Okay.
He was.
I'm
in the
just making
top
sure
10.
he's on the list. Probably the best for the best. That
he got a lot of Arizona fans were in the chat. And they were very happy with me. But it was funny.
Okay.
Like so, I didn't get crushed in the chat. In fact, somebody was like,
because you didn't put Shador up at the top.
Well, I got some shit for that, but then I got some love back, and it was like one of the comments was like, man, most of everybody's lists that do this are shitty. Yours is like the least shitty. And I'm like, thanks, man.
That's a compliment in college football. College football fans, if they say yours is the least shitty, you're like, mine's the best out of anyone that's ever done a list, because that's the nicest thing they could say.
Like, I was like, oh, thanks, man. Like, and it's hard to do. It is really, really hard. But it's a weird year for quarterbacks, by the way. Jalen Milroe is another one that you had people saying he should be at 2 or he should be off the list.
Yeah.
So thank you, Chad, for not being brutally
so terrible.
Yeah. It was another a lot of solo videos. Lately.
Also proud of you for doing the solo videos as well, because those are hard. I've done them for Formula One, and it is not an easy task to be solo. Also, listen to those guys. Please definitely go in the Bleacher Report app and watch all the live streams. We're doing a ton over the next month, and we will do a really good job of posting on No Punts Allowed to let you guys know when we're going live in the VR app. Gotcha. We got you. We're gonna do it.
We will do that. We will definitely do that.
I'm also gonna post a text to our Instagram tomorrow of us today, where it was like, in typical fashion, I need 10 minutes. And I was like, okay, just text me when you log on. And then it was like, I can't find our doc. It was like the most like us text thread.
You're like the kid cramming for the exam that never actually crams for the exam. But we get here and we log in. It does feel good to be doing this. Like, there were multiple times throughout the off season where we would talk because not only do you and I do the pod, but like before we get on, it's like our catch up, right? Like, okay, this is going on. How are you doing? This and that. So I realized I definitely miss this a lot, because in college football too, there's a lot of shit going on, but nothing gets quite like the games. Yeah. So when the games start to come in the horizon, it's super exciting.
Yeah, I'm ready. It's here. I have the itch. Let's do it. It's gonna be absolute chaos. We've talked to you guys plenty of times about like our schedules during the year, and during the season, and it is the best and also most exhausting thing ever. But it's the greatest high of all time. So yeah, we will be previewing a decent amount of college football content for the season. So we'll break some of that down. We'll probably do a lot of betting content and obviously some hot takes. We will go through some conference things. Just with conference realignment, it's a little weird because we don't want to leave out teams. Maybe we break it down in top 25 fashion, and then like the teams we'd like to talk about outside of the top 25 and do it that way. But definitely let us know what you guys want. You guys are actually very good at telling us what you guys want to hear. But we are back now, and there's going to be regular episodes with both of us. We're going to post our episode clips on Instagram. Producer Matt, shout out you. And we're back like Texas.
Like, are we 3 weeks away from week 0? Like, but I know like 3 weeks and some change, I believe, is where we are. Like, let's go. Like, holy shit.
You just sounded like that. I mean, I know you probably haven't heard this sound.
I know the name.
You know the sound, the let's go? Let's fucking go?
I didn't remember it, though. I couldn't do the second part.
Okay.
But it was in my mind. I got halfway home.
And now I'm going to make you make that TikTok, so that's very exciting.
Let's fucking go. Yeah, no, there you go. You nailed it. Like, I'm sort of online. Just don't ask me to post.
You're like just enough online where I can like be like, hey, did you see this? And you're like, I skimmed it, but explain it to me. That's kind of like our thing.
It's my algorithm for Instagram. Yeah.
Your formula? I will never get over you calling it the formula.
It is. It's like, this has come more since last time we talked. The dads in my circle, all we do, and we don't share these things via Instagram, we share them via text. That is what we do in the most that shit possible.
You can make a group in your Instagram.
I'm gonna be 40 during this college football season. I realize that. I'm gonna be 40 years old.
Creamer.
Sometime before the national championship. I don't know. Who knows? We may be at a game when I turn 40.
Yeah, the national championship. We're gonna be it will be national championship because it's the 17th, correct?
My birthday's the 15th of January.
15th.
So,
okay, I was close. I was close.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and the championship is what? Like the 20 something?
20th.
Yeah, I mean, how weird is that? So much later in the year?
Wow. So you're gonna be. That's exciting. Where
40.
are we going again? Atlanta.
Not Vegas.
We're going to Atlanta.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll make it fun.
Chick-fil-A for days, though. I mean, Chick-fil-A, like
Chick-fil-A for days. That's literally all we're gonna eat. And
bacon. Oh man, those biscuit chicken sandwiches for breakfast. You walk in and they're like, they just hand you a carton full of them. Like, good morning. Here is your allocation of chicken sandwiches for the day. Good luck. So Atlanta's good. Atlanta's solid. I've got good memories.
Wait,
also, one of the best stadiums.
Yeah, very cool. I have not been to that one. You're a man. You're 40.
Oh,
wow. I can't wait. We need to get you a shirt.
There'll be some content for this, but not yet. Right now, I'm still very young and very much young at heart. So, all right, we will actually be able to cut this episode remotely short for us. Not that short. Somehow we managed to turn this into a fucking 50-minute episode, which is what we do.
Literally, all we wanted to do was just check in with you guys, say hi, say that we know that college football is about to be here, and we're prepping and we're ready to go.
But next week, we get serious. So also, please share, subscribe, do all that shit that you do that I don't do a very good job of promoting. Don't be like me. Be like Paige. And tell all your friends.
Put your whole life on the internet, including that you listen to this podcast.
Yeah. This is the only college football podcast that will talk about.
There may be some incentives in the near future for if you post you listening to the episode and downloading it. So I'm just saying.
Well, that would also be news to me. But we're going to log off so I can tell you the potential opportunity I have. So, for Paige, I am Adam. It's good. We'll talk to you guys next week.